Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Sunday evening, you guys. So glad to be back to you here in the blue and orange, representing our SEC champion Florida Gators. Can't wait to get into that this evening and the rest of college basketball as well. As a whole, March Madness is officially underway, and I can't be more excited about it this year, especially representing blue and orange, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about the Buccaneers and their free agency. They've had a great free agency so far, so I look forward to talking to you about that. Miami and Jacksonville a little bit more lackluster than the Buccaneers this year, but we will talk about that again and more. Then we will move on to the NBA. We'll talk about the Heat and the Magic. We'll move over to the MLB and talk about spring training for both the Marlins and the Tampa Bay Rays, and then we will close things out with the NHL and talk about what's going right and wrong for the Bolts and the Panthers. All that and more on this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. Keep you locked here for all of your Florida sports needs. Yeah, my name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it's brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you for joining me this evening, this Sunday evening, guys. So as you can see with the blue and orange on, a lot to celebrate here down in sunny Florida. Well, it's actually rainy Florida today, but our Florida Gators did clinch the SEC championship today with a victory over Tennessee, and we will talk about that and so much more on this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. And like I mentioned before, we will cover all major teams coming out of the Sunshine State, and we will dabble in free agency with the NFL. We'll go into NBA and college basketball. We will talk about the MLB and wrap things up with the NHL before I send you guys on your way. But as you guys know, we do have quite a bit of housekeeping to get to. So let's go ahead and get into that really quickly. So first things first, guys, if you are looking for us on social media, you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, IG, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, etc. at IE Sports Radio. That is at IE Sports Radio for the social handle on all of those social media accounts. And then for the website, the umbrella to find all of our shows will be iesportsradio.com. That is, again, the umbrella which to find not just this show, but all the other shows. Currently, I have Fast Break on in the background as well. And they are breaking down the March Madness bracket and talking about the future of college basketball at the moment. So if you're looking for that show, you can also find that show under the umbrella of iesportsradio.com again. And then if you are looking for us on podcasts, or if you're watching us online and you want to, dedicate it to a specific app or what have you, whether it's Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, I use Apple Podcasts, and that's where I listen to my shows and all the other shows, in fact. So whatever you're looking for as far as the podcast location, you can find us all at IE Sports Radio. Again, at IE Sports Radio. And then for this specific show, Palm Tree Sports Radio, it would be at @PalmTree_IE for the social handle. Again, that is at @PalmTree_IE for the social handle on all social medias again. And then my specific social media handle will be at Pujols Corey. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram most of the time, as well as YouTube and TikTok, guys. I am all over the place when it comes to sports. I'm always integrated with it, and I know more about Florida sports than I know probably about myself, guys. So, I really hope that I'm able to deliver some sort of help and some sort of insight that you might not get otherwise, from watching this show. And I thank you so much for making this your first option when it comes to Sunshine Sports, guys. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into a quick message from our sponsors. And when we get back, we will dive into the show and what I have prepared for you this evening, guys. Keep it locked here for all of your Florida sports needs in a moment after a message from our sponsors.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, Take part in your iron therapy and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
And just like that, guys, we are back from a message from our sponsors, and thank you to our sponsors. Without them, it would be really hard for us to do this. Also, for our sponsors, our newest sponsor, I should say, Raw Nutrition Supplements. The website is getrawnutrition.com, and use promo code IESR for 10% off, going right along with the wonderful apparel that we have partnered with at Vital Apparel. Get your supplements there at getrawnutrition.com. And then, of course, the Supporters Club, guys. The Supporters Club is how you support this show. So if you would like to do that, this is the website is www.spreaker.com/podcast/ again, Palm Tree Sports. Again, that is www.spreaker.com/podcast/ Palm Tree Sports. My apologies there. I get ahead of myself a little bit, guys. But thank you so much again for joining us here on Palm Tree Sports Radio. Let's go ahead and get into what we have going on for you this evening. First things first, I would like to say, congratulations to our Florida Gators again on their victory. I can't say how massive this is for us. The last time we won SEC championship was back in 2014, which leads us to our fact of the day, guys. So our fact of the day is that here at the University of Florida, and I think I did the University of Florida last week where we talked about winning the national championships, but not just in college football, but in college baseball and college basketball. Well, the Florida Gators' first college championship in football actually came in 1997. We were able to beat the Florida State Seminoles. And during that game, a lot of people may or may not know, but Danny Warfel was our quarterback, and he was also a Heisman Trophy winner. And he was the second Heisman Trophy winner in Florida's university, behind the head coach, who happened to be Steve Spurrier, who I believe won it in 1966, I think it was. So, guys, just want to share that with you. The first Heisman Trophy winner in Florida history was Steve Spurrier, followed by Danny Warfel, and that was just an absolutely magical time for not just the best coach at that time in college football, but maybe even the best quarterback in college football at the time in Danny Warfel. Very underrated guy, Christian guy, and a guy that really, really connected not just with the rest of the players, but with the fan base as a whole as well. And, we're always glad to see Danny. So shout out to Danny. Thank you for bringing home not only just a Heisman Trophy, but also a national championship to University of Florida. I mentioned last week that when Florida played Florida State in that championship game, that Florida State had actually destroyed Florida in the rivalry game 2 weeks before that. I think it was two or 3 weeks before that. So it just kind of lends credence to how amazing that year was and how special it was to be a Florida Gator, and how special it is continuously to be a Florida Gator. And it is always great to be a Florida Gator. Let's go ahead and get to our comments, and then we will talk about the Sebring 12 first and foremost, and then we will go into everything Florida sports that I have for you. So first things first, Pop is in the house. Hey, Dad, good to see you. And say it one more time for those in the back. It is great to be a Florida Gator. I said it's great. It really is. It really, really is. We love our blue orange. We bleed it. And, for us in our family specifically, not just between my father and myself, but my uncles, my grandfather, my cousins, Florida sports is a very, very big deal. We take it very, very seriously. Hence all the blue and orange, as far as you can see, guys. And of course, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Sun FC women's soccer team on their first spring win over Carolina Ascent with an early goal by Natasha Flint. Great goalkeeping by Ashley Orcus. Well done, ladies. Absolutely. Well done, ladies. And, it's always good to be able to talk about, FC getting their feet a little dirty out there on the grass and putting in some good work. So congratulations to the ladies of Sun FC, Tampa Bay Sun FC. And we look forward to seeing more W's coming away from our team. All right, moving on. Larry B, the legend. Larry Legend. You should change the B to Legend, bro, because you are. And Dad says the same thing. There you go. You know what's going on here. Indy Sports, what's up, baby? Good to see y'all in the building. Florida is looking good, man. We're gonna talk about that. I can't wait to get into it. And you know what? We gotta tell the whole truth. So we gotta talk about why Florida got robbed too, right? So I'm one of the guys who believes that, but I'll explain my logic a little bit later on. Hey, Mom, love you, Mom. Thank you for listening in on the show. Who loves you, baby? That's right. I love it. All righty. And then Brian in the house. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for being on the show this evening. So the Orlando Pride beat the brakes off Chicago 6-0. Yeah, well, success is chainable, right? Success is one of those things where when you find somebody that's successful, you ask them how they did it, then you try to emulate the same thing. And I feel like there's a lot of that going around right now. Florida sports seems to be trending upwards, and it doesn't matter where you think it started. It could have started a couple of years back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It could have started even before that when you think about how well the Bolts and the Panthers have been playing in hockey as well. So, but all that and so much more on this week's episode of Palm Tree Sports. Let's go ahead and get into some information for the Sebring. So for those of you who were watching yesterday, the IMSA 12-hour Sebring took place yesterday. And of course, the IMSA 12 hours of Sebring GTP class winners, the number 7 Porsche. And I'm a huge fan of Porsche, by the way, if you guys didn't know, I love Porsche. Penske Motorsport 963 drivers Felipe Nasser and Nick Tandy, along with Lawrence Vandorf, if I say that right, Vandorf, took first place there in their bracket for the IMSA 12 hours in Sebring's LMP2 class winners were the number 43 Inter-Europool competition Orca, the LMP2 drivers Tom Dillman, Bijoy Garg, and Jeremy Clark took the victory there for the 12 hours at GTD Pro. The class winners there in the number 77 AO Racing Porsche 911 GT3, baby. That's the baby. That is the baby of the group. Actually, to be completely fair with you, the GT2 and the GT3 are both just the babies. Like, we love them. Those are the kind of cars that make us car guys kind of go a little crazy when we see the name. But the drivers there, Lauren Heinrich, Klaus Boucher, and of course, Aliso Picario. I don't want to miss the name. I don't want to mispronounce the name. Whenever I hear them say it, I'm always like, they said it wrong. But they took the victory there in the GTD Pro class. All right. And then for the final one in the GTD winners, the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes AMG GT3. And that is another one. And you do not see that car very, very often at all. And as a matter of fact, I haven't seen one of those in probably a couple of years, to be honest with you. And the last time I saw it was on a showroom floor in Germany. And was it Hamburg, Germany? I think it was. But the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 took the victory there. Drivers Russell Ward, Philip Ellis, shout out Philip Ellis, and Indy Donche took the victory there in, again, the Mercedes. Guys, this is actually some pretty cool stuff. I'm one of those guys who tends to watch or at least catch the highlights from Le Mans. Huge Le Mans fan, huge European supercar fan as well. I give it up to JDM every time. I'm a JDM guy at heart, but I love exotics. I love the racing exotics. I love the street exotics, the whole nine. And all of those cars are absolutely legendary, and what they're able to do on that track is just absolutely incredible. That's some of the toughest driving that you can find, and it's not for the faint of heart, right? Like, we're talking about like sometimes beyond NASCAR level racing, so just take that information and do what you will with it. But it was just incredible to have that take place yesterday. Again, the Sebring Classics 12-hour event was absolutely phenomenal. And, shout out to all those teams for winning. And of course, Porsche holding up to its typical skill level as a victor. It's won Le Mans countless times in other racing events, both here in America and in Europe. And for those of you who watch any of those races, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's so cool to see those custom cars with their stickers and their, all of the aftermarket parts designed by their teams and hooked up by, their engineers. It's super incredible to watch, and I'm a huge fan of it. So congratulations to all of them, and congratulations to Porsche. They're still running things 40 years later. So back to the comments right quick before we continue to dive deep into it. Let's see who else is in the building. All righty, we got IE Sports Radio on Twitch rolling in. I love it. Thank you, guys. Florida's on a roll right now. Favorite for the title. Yeah, that's kind of becoming a unanimous thing. I was actually watching that on ESPN where the guys decided to do their way too early brackets, and all 4 of the guys had Florida winning it all. 3 of them over Duke, 1 over Houston. Call it justification, if you will, because they still technically don't have us as a unanimous rank 1. We are the only team in the U.S. to have 2 victories over unanimous rank 1 teams during the regular season, both of which were SEC teams, and somehow we go in as a 4. Like I said, we'll break that down and talk about it a little bit more. Porsche dominated. Yes, Porsche dominated. It's hard for them not to. They've been making cars to do that for literally decades. We're talking about close to 4 decades, guys, especially for those of you, and like I said, if you guys watch any of those races from back then, I think the biggest one back then was Le Mans, and you look at Le Mans, you talk about Ferrari, you talk about Porsche, obviously a little sprinkle of Mercedes and Lamborghini in there, a little Bentley in there, of course, too. But historically speaking, Porsche has just been, man, there's a reason why Porsche has the pedigree that it has, and I think that lends more credence to it. Happy 316 day. Somebody break the glass in the background, shave my head bald, and grab me a beer because I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin today, baby. Hell yeah. Let's continue on. Yes, great win by the Oak Pride. Absolutely. Hell yeah. Badass cars. Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. Some of the very best, some of the most incredible cars in the world that you will ever see. No cap. Like I promise I'm not making that up. So, but okay. So yeah, obviously you guys, if you didn't know, I'm a car guy too. I'm a huge car guy. I like Forza. I like Need for Speed. Probably Need for Speed guy more so than Forza, but dabble in all of that for my gamers out there. Guys, let's talk the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's just get right on into this, guys. So there's been a lot of, what are the Bucs going to do? A lot of questions about, my bad, that team right there. There we go. Right. I can't get the, that team right there. A lot of questions were being asked about what they were going to do. What offseason moves were they going to make? Were they going to be able to restructure contracts? Were they going to be able to create cap room space for the 2 areas that they absolutely need just in a tremendous amount of help from? And the answer to that question is yes, on all accounts. The Buccaneers have made moves, and we're going to break those down and talk about it. So first things first, guys, we're going to go ahead and go down the list, if you will, with me. The re-signs, first things first. These re-signs we saw coming. Wouldn't have expected anything less from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jason Light, best GM in the league, by the way. Go argue with a wall. But re-signed Chris Godwin. Actually, Chris Godwin's is actually an extension, a 3-year extension that's been added on. And so he will be staying here for the next 3 years. Obviously, this is a box office re-sign. Chris Godwin, it was going to be the best free agent wide receiver. Again, argue with a wall. If you guys have watched any type of Tampa Bay football since Brady came here, you guys know just how good Chris Godwin is. Out of the 32 teams in the NFL right now, he goes to 28 of them and becomes their instantly best receiver that they have. So re-signing Chris Godwin, absolutely massive, is going to help continue to create those opportunities for Mike Evans. And for those of you who did not watch Tampa Bay Buccaneers football last year before his injury on that nighttime game against the Ravens, which was again, I'm going to scream on this, that hit was a dirty hit, was an illegal tackle. And unfortunately the NFL lost the appeal. And, so he wasn't fined or punished for it. But realistically speaking, it's something that they need to do, that they need to continue to do something for, because Chris Godwin was robbed of what was going to be one of his best 3 years in the NFL. And he's quietly 8 years in. So for me, and not just as a fan, but as also a former football player who has dealt with injury before, I can tell you right now, there's not quite much of anything as frustrating as having your year cut short because some guy doesn't know how to follow the rules and tackle properly. So I will say that. And if you guys disagree with that, then talk to the NFL, because they created the rules. If they hadn't created the rules, I wouldn't be saying this right now. We wouldn't be talking about it. Levante David returns to Tampa Bay on a 1-year deal worth $10 million. It's actually $9 million guaranteed with the opportunity to make another $1 million. He's going to make it. The stipulation's easy for him. We're talking about one of the quietly best linebackers in the NFL over the last 14 years. Excuse me. Again, if you haven't watched Tampa Bay Buccaneers football, then you probably haven't seen him. If you're the Chiefs, you remember him. If you are the Eagles, you remember Levante David. If you are the Washington football team, you remember Levante David. Needless to say, he has been showing up and he has been showing out. Fresh out of Nebraska 14 years ago, this man's still playing high-level football with one of the best years of his career last year. But that doesn't say much, because all of his years are one of his best years, and he's just that kind of ball player. So always glad to have Levante David back on the field with the boys. Can't wait to see 54 back out there and, making quarterbacks' lives terrible, both in coverage and inside the box, guys. Buccaneers re-sign Anthony Nelson, outside linebacker, 2-year deal. So Anthony Nelson is one of the smaller names, not one of the names that you're accustomed to seeing at all times from Tampa Bay, but a guy who is very much so a solid 2 at the outside linebacker position, a guy that understands the scheme, that knows how to make plays. He's not quite as athletic as, maybe say a Levante David or somebody else that we recently just signed, and we'll talk about him in a moment. But he does absolutely have a nose for the football. He's a sure tackler, and he's a guy with a very, very big wingspan. It takes up a lot of space. We love Anthony Nelson down here. Glad to have him back on a 2-year deal. Kyle Trask and Sterling Shepard both return on 1-year deals. This is great for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers simply because you have a backup quarterback who knows the system. He's not a bad quarterback, okay? Yeah, he might be a little unproven on the field, but he's not a bad quarterback. So looking forward to seeing Kyle Trask back in the red and pewter. Sterling Shepard, another one, a solid 3, if you will, at wide receiver. He had some pretty good catches last year for Tampa Bay and definitely stepped up in times where we needed him to. Obviously, I hope he comes back better than ever, but last year was his first year after being away from the Giants for the first time in his career. So, I believe that this guy will get better with another year under his offense, and I think that this 3-headed monster could actually be potentially massive along with Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan is actually the true number 3, but you have to remember the Buccaneers had so many injuries at wide receiver last year that Sterling Shepard got a lot of playing time. So he's a rotational 3, but Jalen McMillan is in front of him on the depth chart as he goes into his second year after an amazing rookie campaign that saw him do things that only Randy Moss had done in NFL history. And if you don't believe me, go look at the stats. The only rookie wide receiver to perform on the level that Randy Moss has in recent memory is Jalen McMillan. So shout out to that wide receiving core. Absolutely phenomenal core there. Now let's talk about the guys that we brought in that, were not on the team last year. So Hassan Reddick agrees to terms on a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay. This is absolutely massive. When you look at Hassan Reddick, he was a terror when he was with the Eagles, and at the height of that, he left. Maybe he was smelling the coffee a little bit too much, but he goes over to the Jets and has what he says, quote unquote, a bizarre year there with the Jets. And I would call it bizarre. That Jets team was a symphony of mess. Okay, that's how I would describe that Jets team. At one point in time, it might have been great looking spaghetti with the tomato and marinara sauce and Parmesan cheese at front. But you guys know, like if you drop spaghetti, the mess that it makes, that's what the Jets look like last year. They look like the mess, not the spaghetti, but the mess that it makes. And as a result, there's a lot of talent that's leaving the Jets. The Jets are by far going through one of the craziest restoration projects that I've ever seen, a football team go through. And that also includes Hassan Reddick leaving and joining Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jason Light is notorious for these 1-year deals, these prove-it deals in which a player comes in and either plays their heart out and finds a contract, i.e. Baker Mayfield, and friends, of course. He's not the only one. Sterling Shepard's again returning, but Sterling Shepard's getting up there. He may not decide to play football for too much longer, so these 1-year deals work for a player like that. So Hassan Reddick, still with plenty of time in his career, still with a chance to sign a decent contract moving forward, has a year to prove it with Tampa Bay on a team that needs it, and a guy who has the ability. Again, when he was with the Eagles, he was on a tear, an absolute machine at getting to the quarterback, and hopefully he's going to be able to bring that here in Tampa Bay and help us out in one of the areas that we're struggling in the most. Kendall Vilder. Okay, so Kendall Vilder was a cornerback who played for the Detroit Lions. This is a guy that adds a lot of experience at the cornerback position, and not just a lot of experience, but actually looks like he can fit into this Todd Bowles defense pretty well. You guys know Todd Bowles' defense at this time. It's very similar to the 49ers defense from back in the day, just evolved, of course. But when I look at this team, I see a team that's missing one of those guys that excels in zone coverage from a cornerback perspective. This guy adds an extremely good layer of zone coverage. Obviously, man coverage is a lot harder to get away with today because these receivers are freaks of nature and they're so good at getting open and creating space. And when you look at that, you want to be able to go back and play defense the way Tampa Bay played defense back when we had Tom Brady, we won the Super Bowl. And then back in the early 2000s, we have Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, John Lynch, Dexter Jackson, Rondé Barber, Brian Kelly. I'm gonna name the whole team, guys. You guys know what I mean. We want to get back to being able to play defense on that level, and the way for us to be able to do that, it starts with being able to be comfortable in zone coverage and know that when we get into 3rd and 6, 3rd into 7, that we don't have to put our guys out there on the island, that we can drop into a cover 2 and safely let our cornerbacks, make decisions and plays on the ball and become ball hawks. And that's where most of the interceptions come from. These ball hawk secondaries is from zone coverage. Man coverage only works, obviously, when you can, either double up the one receiver and then just like leave your guys on an island across the board, and then your guys win because of progression, getting to the quarterback, pressure with 4, and those kind of things. But you need zone coverage to when you rather be safe than sorry. And you understand that in order to do that, you got to have the guys that excel in zone coverage. So this is a guy that I think that can do that, and we will look to see more of that. His is a 1-year deal as well. And a prove-it deal. So he comes in, put on with Zion McCollum. There's still Jamel Dean, who needs to perform better. Jamel Dean was absolutely terrible last year. Zion McCollum's best cover corner we have. So hopefully, Kendall will come in and really help add a layer of that to it, along with, the rest of the young secondary, Christian Izzian and Tyke Smith and the rest of those guys who are still developing. I think Tyke Smith has a year for the ages. And he was phenomenal last year, barring injury, but I think that he has a year for the ages here at cornerback. And with him, Zion McCollum, and hopefully Kendall on board, we'll have 3 solid cornerbacks that can help create issues and make quarterbacks hold the ball a little bit longer so that our D-line can get to him, featuring Hassan Reddick now, of course. So with that being said, Buccaneers who could come back. So these are some guys that obviously just have application in Tampa Bay. If I'm Jason Light, I look at these guys and I say, hey, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I can't offer you guys max deals for your position, but if you guys are willing to come back and be a part of this program, we will absolutely love to have you guys back. And here's what we can offer you. From that standpoint, in Jason Light's office, these are the people that I would consider bringing back. And these are all players from the Super Bowl team back in 2021. So, guys, it would be Shaq Barrett first and foremost, because you're going to need that third guy in rotation. Yes, we have Yaya Diaby. We have Anthony Nelson. We have Hassan Reddick now. Shaq Barrett will be perfect to come in on on third downs just to apply enough pressure. He may not always have to get to the quarterback with our interior D-line being as good as it is, but knowing that we have such a high-pressure guy like Shaq Barrett with the experience and the knowledge that he has of the game in this defense at that, I think that he still provides a great layer outside linebacker, and we would be fools not to bring him back, especially since he wants to stay here in Tampa Bay. Excuse me. Mike Edwards, Jordan Whitehead, 2 of the safeties that played on the Super Bowl winning team, 2 safeties that were very influential on that team on defense and great rotational players. Obviously, I think that we need to probably go find another safety, another young safety, another Antoine Winfield Jr. if we can. We will have 4 amazing rotation safeties if that was the case. Mike Edwards does a really, really good job at doing similar things to Antoine Winfield Jr. Maybe not quite at the same level or at the level that he used to perform, but he's still an outstanding safety. And I think that him and Jordan Whitehead can have a bit of a resurgence coming back. I think that they could benefit with another year after both of them being away from Tampa for a little while. And with Jordan Whitehead was previously with the Jets. He came back and he was looking pretty all right in the first couple of games. And then there were injuries followed by a car accident before the last game of the season this past year. And so with all those things in consideration, I think that he just had a really abrupt 24. And I think that a really solid start here at 25 could be potentially great for him. And I think that both of these guys could find their footing. I think they just need a little bit of time. And I don't think that it's going to cost much to sign them both. So Jason Light, if you're hearing this, if you hear this, I urge you, talk to those guys one-on-one and ask them, hey, listen, do you guys value being here? If so, can I pay you slightly less money and keep you guys here? Because I think that you can get with that. And I think that we have such a family atmosphere in here in Tampa Bay that would be successful for both sides of us, because it's not just about making money, right? It's about winning. And for those players that it's about just making money, that's why they haven't won anything yet. Lastly, Will Golston, staple inside interior defensive lineman with a guy that can also play outside if he needs to. Will Golston has been with Tampa Bay for a long time, and I think that he is just a pivotal part in the rotation, a guy that can help Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey take breaks and catch their wind when they need to without really losing any of the skill and presence that they possess on the interior line. Will Golson would definitely re-sign here for less. The question is, does he want to retire or not? He has been in the league for a while. He is the old man of the group along with Levante David. So it's up to him. Ball's in his court. I think that he would re-sign, and I think the Bucks would re-sign him. Again, it's all family. He's got the production on tape and in the field. I don't see why we wouldn't bring him back. So that would be the last pick for me. The Buccaneers, after this offseason move, they look pretty good. I have to admit, I like these moves. These are all moves that I probably agree with. I know Slay was available for a while from the Eagles, but I'm actually kind of happy we didn't get him because I looked back at the tape over the last two meetings that these two teams had. And for the record, I'm pretty sure that Jason Light didn't entertain him simply because the guy just got owned by Mike Evans. I believe Mike Evans had over the course of their interaction is 3 touchdowns over Slay during the games in which Slay covered Mike whenever we played the Eagles. And when you take that in consideration, you realize you don't get better if you have a guy who can barely defend your number one guy, if at all. And don't get me wrong, there's not much of anybody that can cover Mike Evans, but I think that's what gives our defensive backs a chance versus most defensive backs because they show up every week and every practice they have to cover Mike Evans. They have to cover Jalen McMillan. They have to cover Chris Godwin. That's going to make you at least decent, right? So that's my thought there. Outside linebacker for sure got better. Resign not Chris Godwin, but Shaq Barrett, and I think you have a solid 4 rotation right there where you don't have to worry about maybe you draft a guy, but just one, and you can really focus on spreading out your rounds to other areas, which, again, we do have other areas, guys. Those are just the 2 glaring ones. I could definitely see, like I said, I would draft probably 3 cornerbacks this year, and I know that sounds like a lot on the draft board, but, guys, y'all need to understand the interior defensive line, phenomenal. Kalijah Kancey, Vita Vea, Greg Gaines, I don't care. Like, it's phenomenal, right? Offensive line, really, really good, right? So, maybe draft another offensive lineman, but for the most part, we've built our line through the draft, and we've hit on Barton. We've hit on Tristan Wirfs, who are both young guys. And so, again, when you look at this team, the areas at which that we need help, are mostly on defense. And so I would say, maybe go draft an outside linebacker, go draft 3 cornerbacks, go draft a safety, go draft a really good safety if there's one available. And then, I guess after that, tight end, wide receiver, just et cetera, picks here and there. But you want to address what's necessary and you want to find some gems. And the best way to do that is by making the most with those picks. The Bucks have 6 picks this year, so they have plenty to work with. By the end of this draft, we should be able to have filled all the slots within this team, and I have to admit, I will be super excited to see where this team is headed in the 2025 season, guys. So that's it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their free agency. Like I said, been very, very busy. A lot of moves. They started at a B grade. I think it was a B minus. Now they're at an A minus for obviously after re-signing Chris Godwin, Levante David. These are massive signings. So, let me go over to the comments right quick because I know you guys have an opinion here on this. But yeah, so a lot of moves though by the Bucks. A lot of moves. All right, so let's see. So new system used to pick the 68 teams. They were screwed it all up. The Gators was the unanimous true number 1 overall. Yep. Don't worry. We're going to get to that, Dad. We are going to get to that. Oh, yeah. Trust me. I have a whole opinion on that. Great job by the Bucks in free agency. Chris freaking Godwin, baby. That is correct. We love Chris Godwin, CG12, now CG14. Chris, if you ever hear this, bro, just know that you mean so much to this city. Just like Mike, you and Mike together are Batman and Robin, and it's not the same when one of you isn't there, and we prefer y'all to be there together versus not at all, So, you mean a whole lot to the city, Chris, and we love you, and we're so glad you're staying here. Levante David, the ageless wonder, again, we love you too, Levante David, man. You are a Buccaneer through and through. We hope that you retire here. In my opinion, I think you're a Hall of Famer. When you look at the body of work that you've put in, the consistency of it is alarming when you look at not just him, but again, Mike Evans as well. We talk about consistency. This is the guy that's on the defensive end when you talk about consistency. So love you, Levante. Bucks keep as much as their core together and added as well. Yeah. Again, this is what we saw teams in the past do when they found success. We saw the Ravens do this. We saw the Steelers do this. We saw New England do this. We saw We saw the Eagles and the Chiefs both do this as well. Like all the teams in all the great teams in history have a way to bring back their guys, and then their guys want to come back too. So, those are some things to take in consideration when you talk about great teams in NFL history. And the Buccaneers are striving to be just that. Free agency per Pro Ball focus, Bucks A-, Dolphins and Jaguars C+. Yeah, they weren't going to get really high grades. The Jaguars are nothing but thieves. The Dolphins, they're just, again, I've said it all the time, they're a glass cannon. And the problem is with the glass cannon is you're a glass cannon. So prove it deals worked out well for the Bucks. Shaq Barrett did it before, can do it again. I recall our current quarterback came in on 1 year as well. That is exactly right. And we saw how it worked with Baker Mayfield. And when something's not broke, you don't try to fix it. Jason Light, best GM in the league. I agree with those grades, Pops. Yeah, so do I. I think that these are pretty accurate grades. I think that if the Buccaneers have been able to maybe get one other cornerback out there in free agency, that we'd be talking about them having probably the best free agency. Unfortunately, they have not been able to do that yet. There are some guys still available, but obviously most of the top cornerbacks have been taken off the board already, with the Buccaneers able to get a pretty solid one at least. Unfortunately, it looks like NBC won't be picking up, or per NBC, Bucks won't be picking up Jordan Whitehead's. No, so we're not picking up his 2025 option, but that doesn't mean we can't re-sign him. We got him on a bargain, but the thing is that bargain was contingent it was a 1 year guarantee, but the second year was an option, and that's why the second year was an option, just so they can play around with it. Obviously, if Jordan Head is still on the market, later on, they'll re-sign him for as little as possible on a 1 year deal. And then if he proves it again, then he can probably get a 2 year, 3 year deal after that. But there's no need for us to go over and above for Jordan Whitehead because he struggled last year. And again, through the injuries and the car accident, he's probably got to be asking himself if he wants to continue to play football. And I'm pretty sure both sides will be in contact with each other one way or another. JTS went to Cleveland. Yes, he did. I did see that. That part, I met JTS in real life. He is a physical specimen, 6'5", about 245, built sort of like Randy Orton. But unfortunately, his ability to get to the quarterback just did not transfer from college to the pros. And that's what we've seen in the last 4 years from him. A lot of love and a lot of respect for him. But at the same time, if I was Jason Light, I'd probably do the same thing. And, Cleveland picked him up because Cleveland needs help. And that's a young guy that maybe they can mold and maybe they could feel like they could do something that the Buccaneers were not able to do with him. And then my dad with a shout out to Mayor Kathy Castor, if you're listening, great pick with my son. So you guys, long story short, I get to work with the city and the city of Tampa Bay. And that reminds me, I also have some news for you for the Rays from our very own mayor. But I was able to do a project with her on Friday this past week. And so I got to meet her personally and take a picture with her. So it was absolutely incredible to meet our mayor and to, spend the morning with her and get this project done in the city. So big shout out to Mayor Castor. She was a great woman, very, very nice, very respectful. And I am very appreciative to have been able to work with her out there in Tampa Bay this past week. Let's go into Jaguars before we get into our first break of the evening, guys, and talk about what the Jaguars did with their free agency. So, again, the Jaguars not quite on the same level, but how could they be on the same level? They're thieves in the night, and I don't mean like the 40 Thieves. But for their key signings, they were able to sign De'Ami Brown from Washington. This guy's probably going to come in and start directly for them. They need help at wide receiver. Brian Thomas Jr. is the best thing that they have going for him. He was a rookie last year. So we will see what happens there. With De'Ami Brown. Offensive lineman Chuma Edoga from Dallas comes over. That's not the only Dallas cowgirl, my apologies, that comes over. Jordan Lewis also comes over. He's a cornerback from Dallas. Both of those signings pretty decent. C+ signings there on both of those guys. Robert Hainsey comes from Tampa Bay. He's a former starting center in 2022 before the Buccaneers drafted Graham Barton. Robert Hainsey, see you later, pimp, whatever. You and what's his name, y'all can go over there and do what y'all do with your little mediocre offense and sunshine. Best of luck to the Buccaneers. Whatever happens to Jacksonville happens. I don't care. But realistically speaking, none of these signings are really A-grade signings. Hunter Long from the Rams, not better than Evan Ingram. You guys lost Evan Ingram. I think just the Jacksonville Jaguars right now are just in a really weird place when it comes to not just ownership, but the way that they run their team and who they decide to, utilize for their situations. I do think that Tony Khan was a snake move to snuff out Liam Cohen underneath Tampa Bay, knowing Baker Mayfield's not had a. But you know what? That on the flip side of it, though, I will be a man and say and admit this is the business side of things. So to further comment on the business side of things, we took it on the chin and we're going to continue to take it on the chin. The next time we see the Jaguars, we're just going to embarrass y'all. Okay, we're just going to embarrass y'all and continue to move on. There will be an element of payback there. Of course, how could it not be? But what you do is you move on from it, right? Like you remember it, but you move on from it. So we're going to move on from it. We're going to focus on the 25-year. But the next time we see the Jaguars, sunshine, sweetheart, I feel bad for what's going to happen to you guys because I personally mean this. The Buccaneers do not hold grudges well. Look what happened to Dave Canellis, okay? We had to go see him last year. We had to stun on him. So Liam Cohen, you're next, Bubba. You're next. Like Goldberg, you're next. Okay. Spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. Like that. For those wrestling fans out there. You guys know what I'm talking about. All right. Patrick McCarry coming over from the Ravens. He's a guard. That one's pretty decent. I would say De'Ami Brown and Patrick McCarry were two of the better signs, in my opinion. McCarry has potential. Okay, he has potential. I don't know how far it's going to go, but he definitely has potential. The guys from the Cowboys, Cowgirls. I don't know. I haven't had much faith in that franchise for a long time now, and guess what? I still don't have much faith in them. So, that's just how I feel about that. Eric Murray coming over from Houston. Eric Murray quietly has been on this is going to be his third team in the last 4 years, I believe it was. The guy can play safety, but he's a placeholder. Okay, he's not a Antoine Winfield Jr. or what's that boy's name out there? What's that other safety that's really, really good? Kyle Hamilton. Okay, he's not one of those guys. All right, he's not. And when he was with the Chiefs, he got carved up a little bit there in that final year that he was there. He was all right for Houston, but again, he's a placeholder. Houston would have held on to him otherwise, but he's a placeholder. So, like I said, none of these really draft grades are an A. I'd give a couple of them a B with a bunch of C's around it, and that's why I agree with the draft grade that my dad put out there as a C for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose Ronald Darby and Evan Ingram. Ronald Darby is a veteran in this league. He's just getting older. He's lost a step. He's just not where he used to be, and that's okay. But it makes sense for them to move on from him. Obviously, they're going to look back in the draft, but they've been doing that for the last 6 years. Okay, they've been looking back into the draft, trying to figure out defense, and they just can't seem to figure it out. And the reason why is because they keep trying to snipe people from underneath other people's teams. That's not how you get it done. You want further details? Go look at the Miami Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those two teams will show you how to get it done because they've done it where? In the draft, okay? If you draft good, you don't have to worry about picking up all these other players all the time, spending $185 million in the offseason just for you guys to finish third in the AFC South, which is the worst division in football. Jesus. As you guys can see, I'm a little animated tonight because I'm starting not to like Jacksonville. Bring back the Fred Taylor, Mark Brunell days. Dolphins. Okay, so Dolphins have done nowhere nearly as much, but what they have done has been decently impactful. They've done exactly what we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, which is what they need to do and attack their defensive line and their offensive line. Work a little bit back on the cornerback position and see if they can icy hot some type of success here on defense. Again, when you're a glass cannon team, the first thing you have to do is figure out how to replace the glass with a different material, right? You need the cannon, but the material has to be better. And the way to do that is to develop substance, and you need substance on defense to win championships. So Miami did start to do that, but I'm more impressive with what they did on the offensive line. So they were able to sign Larry Baroom from the Bears. That's an offensive lineman. That's a pretty solid signing right there. I like that pickup. And James Daniels from Pittsburgh. This one is all right as well. This one's not bad, and I think that helps shore up that offensive line, that saw them lose a guy and also was just a little underwhelming or has been a little underwhelming over the last 2 or so years. So both of those pickups pretty good. Ifatu Melifonwin. I cannot say his name. I'm not going to ever be able to say his name, but he's the safety from the Lions. This is a good pickup. I think this is a decent pickup. Unfortunately, I don't think that I think he's a placeholder. I think he's just a guy that you wait until you have somebody better or you draft somebody better. The guy's decent, but he's decent, and they don't have really anything at safety there in Miami. So this makes perfect sense. Along with Ashton Davis from the Jets, this is also a decent pickup. Again, Dad gave him a C. I give them a C as well. But the C for Miami comes from a different area. They just haven't done as much as Jacksonville and Tampa Bay has. So they have a lot of potential for their draft grade to increase by just signing one or two other guys, that can really help them out there. But those were the four signings that really stood out for me there for Miami. They're good, but they need to do a little bit more work. They definitely need some more help, especially on the defensive line right now. Maybe touch up linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive line, and cornerback again as well. Those are the things that I need them to do before they're able to find sustained success there on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. And that's what I have for you guys for the NFL. I know we spent a lot of time talking about free agency, but I told you guys before we would, and we knew that these teams all needed serious help. Okay, this is not like the This is not like the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Eagles where they just don't need a whole bunch of help in all these different areas. This is a team, again, they're a glass can. They need a lot of help. And same thing with Jacksonville. Jacksonville needs a lot of help because they're just terrible at drafting for some freaking reason. And when they do draft good players, they let them go. Tampa Bay is the shining beacon right now in the state of Florida, and they continue to be so. And I hope that they continue to be moving forward into the future and the years and decades to come. But guys, that's what I have for you there, the NFL. Keep it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. After this break, we will get into the NBA, college basketball. We will go into MLB, and then we will wrap things up with the NHL. But thank you for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, sports fans? It's your boy Aaron Yell, and if you are looking for sports takes that live a mile above the rest, look no further than Mile High Musings here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Want to talk about NBA, MVPs, and champions? Yeah, that's us. Perhaps a baseball team that no matter how they play, you just can't quit them? Yep, we've got that too. What about Stanley Cups, NHL award winners in the burgundy and blue? Got it. How about Buffaloes that run, pass, shoot, dunk? You bet. For all things Colorado sports, look no further than right here every Sunday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, and 7 Pacific. Because if that light is red and the kids are in bed, you are listening to Mile High Musings, where we praise the Lord and cheer for them Denver Broncos. Stay good, sports fans.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Thanks for keeping it locked here, guys. So back to the comments real quick before we get into the NBA. I love free agency too, Larry. It's always, think about it. So there's been this topic. We can talk about this real quick, guys. There was this topic about the greatest free agent signing in NFL history. I'm sure you guys saw this debate and whatnot. I believe that the Buccaneers former defensive lineman Gerald McCoy was in on the debate, and he made a really good point, kind of made everybody else look kind of ridiculous, and I'm so glad that he did this. But for those of you who may have forgotten, the Buccaneers did sign Tom Brady. There you go. End of discussion, right? So Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback to ever live. He's the greatest NFL football player to ever live. You can argue with me. I saw somebody the other day say that Joe Montana was still his guy. Bro, Joe Montana was my guy before Tom, okay? Before Tom Brady happened. And as you guys know, as you guys can see right here, my bad, right there, we love Tom. And I mean to pieces. Like, he might even still have a house here, bro, because I swear to God, I saw his Aston Martin on the road the other day when I was driving around South Tampa, which is where he lived. So, you know, but with that being said, Tom Brady's the greatest free agency sign of all time. You guys got to take into consideration the Buccaneers still have the lowest win percentage, you know, in NFL history. Tom Brady came here and changed the culture forever. Impacted these guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Levante David, guys that have been on this team for a long time and taught them how to win. And since then, the Buccaneers have won 4 NFC South titles. You guys remember back in the day when the NFC titles used to flop and it used to be one team one year, the next team would be a different year, the next year after that would be a different team? Not anymore. The South goes through Tampa Bay. It still goes through Tampa Bay right now. I don't care about what everybody's saying. Oh, I like Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta, and they have a good run. Shut up. The referees won both of those games during the regular season for the Falcons, and you can't tell me otherwise. Go back and look at the tape if you don't believe me. But with that being said, yeah, that's a mic drop right there, Dad. Greatest free agent signing of all time was Tom Brady. After that, I mean, it's really hard to say. But a really, really good one, or one that or two that actually really, really stand out to me throughout history was Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders going over to the 49ers. The 49ers win a Super Bowl. Then he goes over to Dallas. Dallas wins the Super Bowl. So that is clearly probably my number 2 free agent signing of all time. And my number 3 is probably going to be Randy Moss. So when Randy left Minnesota, he goes over to, I believe it was the Raiders, and then the Raiders and him just didn't work out. They just weren't getting him the ball. Then he goes over to Tom Brady and plays, or goes over to the Patriots and plays with Tom Brady. And that first year, he goes 23 touchdowns. End of discussion, question mark. Perfect season, only thwarted by a team that they had destroyed earlier in the regular season, the New York Giants. In fact, that was the game that Randy Moss got his 23rd touchdown for that season. So there's a little history fact for you guys when it comes to free agency. A little free agency fact sharing there, guys. But back to our regularly scheduled programming, we're going to dive into what's going on with the Miami Heat. So, this Miami Heat team is dead in the water. All right, they're dead in the water. They're so dead in the water, guys. Give me a minute here. We're gonna have ourselves a little drinky drink. What you guys think? A little drink for the show? I think so. So what we're drinking here is Tiramana tequila. Shout out to Rocky The Rock, one of my biggest idols, born in Miami. His birthday is May 2nd. I was born May 10th. So we're also both Tauruses and May babies. So supporting my fellow Taurus, one of my favorite wrestler of all time, and also one of my favorite actors. I know he's a bit overrated, and not every movie he does is great, but I love it. So we're going to have ourselves a little Tiramana here before we get into what's going on with this really, really bad Miami Heat team. But guys, let's not act like we didn't see this coming. After the stuff with JB, we knew that the team was going to struggle, and they're doing exactly what we expected them to do. Right now, they just need to get to the end of the season. That's pretty much where Miami is at. It's frustrating as a Jimmy Butler fan, and you know, as a guy who watched him give everything he had to Miami and take us to that championship in the bubble, who we ultimately lost. For the record, as a Miami Heat fan, I was rooting for the Lakers, by the way, because I am a LeBron guy first, then a Miami Heat fan. But still, there's got to be so much frustration for him with what he went through there. And now that frustration has boiled over to the Miami Heat team, and now this team is showing it. What do I mean by they're showing it? Well, they've lost 7 in a row, which should tell you they just lost today. They lost to the Grizzlies, 125-91, not a close ball game at all. That's a 31-point differential there, or not 31 point, but that's a 34-point differential. Terrible. Just absolutely terrible. Can't tell you what went right. Can only tell you what went wrong. They were terrible on defense. They couldn't stop anything in transition. I turned off the game. Miami's just in trouble. Right now, they're rocking a 29-38 record. The Grizzlies are rocking a 43-25 record. Grizzlies by no means the best team in the West, but it's still a really, really good team. And, the Heat are just in a place right now where they're not able to perform against top talent, and this is what it comes down to. Next game for the Heat is going to be against the Knicks. That's the 42-24 Knicks. Hey, 42-24. My ADHD is like, oh, my God, those numbers flip. That game's going to be tomorrow at 7:30 p.m., so get ready for that game, or don't get ready for that game because the Heat aren't going to be ready for it. Like I said, they lost 7 in a row. Fish out of water or fish dead in water. You pick, but that's pretty much where they're at. Not a whole lot more to say. Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero trying to play hero basketball, but they can't do it by themselves. And unfortunately, this roster is just shambles compared to what it was at the start of the season. Best of luck, Miami. Get to the offseason, see what you guys can do. Hopefully the draft is good to you. That's it. That's it for Miami. There's pretty much not more else to go on about this. Now, a team that I would prefer more to talk about would be the Orlando Magic. Now, this team, okay, I'm going to have a drink to this team, okay? I'm going to have a drink to this team. That team's pretty good, okay? They are young, and that's a good thing. I would prefer for them to be young. They were able to beat the Cavs 108-103. Now, that's a quality win. The Cavs are one of the best teams in the East, okay? The Cavs are rocking a 56-11 record, okay? I think that's the best record in basketball right now, all right? Magic were able to beat them. We saw this last year. Boston was the number 1 seed last year at one point in time. The Magic went and beat them 2 games in a row. The first game, people were like, oh, is it a joke? Is it? No, it's not cheeky, bro. They're really that good. They're young and they're talented. They've got direction. If they can stay healthy, the continuity defends itself. All right. I love where the Orlando Magic are headed. I know their record right now is a little rough with the 32-37 record that they're rocking right now, but that win over the Cavs proves that they can hang with anybody. And their next game, they're going to go see the Rockets. That's going to be Wednesday, March 19th at 7 p.m., guys. I think that if they can win that game, if they can stay healthy, they'll be able to snowball effect, get back at 500, and continue to climb up from there. This team is nowhere near out of the mix. They have a lot of talent, a lot of young talent on offense. They just got to stay healthy. They got to stay healthy and continue to play together. And if they do that, everything else will fall into place. I'm super proud of this team, but I need them to continue to work hard. They're 3-3 in their last 6 games. And they're alternating wins and losses, okay? 1 minute they're up, the next minute they're down. And it doesn't matter the team because, as you can see, they beat the Cavs. They can do it. They just have to be consistent with it. Like I said, 3-3 over the last 6, not dead in the water yet, but definitely to get back to 500 and then play ball from there. If Orlando can do that, we'll be talking about this team deep into the playoffs, maybe even Eastern Conference Finals run, and hopefully they can continue on and go even deeper than there. Back to the chat real quick. Excuse me. Yep, Orlando pulled off some magic on the Cavs. Way to go. I know you're happy about that. Historically speaking, my dad is the Orlando Magic fan. I am the Miami Heat fan, but we both love both of the teams. But I think so, Dad. I think so. I think that we are about to make a run. And shout out Gen B, Cleveland in the house. Like you said, Dad, watch out because, our boys are going to ball, and they are. And hopefully, it would be cool to see both of those teams in the playoffs play each other. I think that would be a great series. And I think that the Orlando Magic wouldn't just lay down and take it. I think that they put up a pretty good fight, and I'd be very interested to see how that turns out. But yeah, I think so too. I think the Magic are about to go on a run, and I think they're about to make some noise and let everybody in the East know, hey, we're here and we're healthy and we're going to ball. All right, so super excited for that. Can't wait to see how things go for that team. Now, guys, let's go ahead and get into the part that I'm most excited to talk about this evening. As you can see with the blue and orange on everywhere, guys, the Florida Gators, your 2025 SEC champ, 2024-2025. Let me correct myself, SEC champions after victories over some pretty solid teams, guys. So let's go ahead and get into that for each one for them, the stats for themselves. So the last time that I spoke to you guys, the Gators were at they were a 2 with a 29-4 record, one of the best records in all of basketball, college basketball right now. And they had to go see ranked 7 Missouri, who was rocking a 22-11 record. They were able to defeat Missouri, I believe, to vindicate that loss, one of the losses they had earlier this year, 95-81. After that, they go see Alabama, destroying Alabama 104-82 in the highest scoring SEC game during a tournament, during SEC tournament in college basketball history. So congratulations to the Florida Gators on not just only beating Alabama 3 separate times this year, but also, scoring the most points in the in SEC for as far as tournament games are concerned. So again, 104-82 be the score of that game. Alabama rocking a 25-8 record. Understand this, guys. 3 of those 8 losses come to Florida. Alabama is an outstanding basketball team, but Florida just has their number, and it makes sense because in college football, Alabama has Florida's number. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about college basketball, and our boys are balling, and that's what we're going to continue to do is ball, baby. So that sets up a date with Tennessee earlier today to decide the SEC crown. The SEC crown, much like it has in college football between these two teams, goes through Florida and continues to go through Florida. Much respect to the Vols. A lot of respect to that college, just in its nature as a Gator. That is a college that I respect, that I do have a tremendous amount of love and admiration for due to its history. If you guys remember, of course, Peyton Manning played for the Tennessee Volunteers. And also, if you guys remember, he could not beat Florida. It was the one team that he literally could not beat in his 4 years at Tennessee. So there is a very disgruntled marriage about these two teams. Same thing with Florida, Alabama, but a lot of love and respect over all these years of having to play against these teams. We know just how good they are. Tennessee and Florida split the 2 regular season games, with Florida destroying them in the first game. Tennessee coming back, getting their second in that second game, getting it back in blood. And we all expected that. My father and I, we both saw that coming. We expected Tennessee not to take it laying down, but we knew that if we met again, that Florida would be the team that we think that they are. And that's exactly what we saw there earlier today in the SEC championship game. Score of that game goes 86-77. Gators win. Tennessee rocking a 27-6 record. Not a bad record, but not enough to dethrone Florida from SEC championship. Again, the last time Florida won the SEC championship was 2024. Congratulations to our Florida Gators on that massive victory and a massive return to success here in March Madness as we look to open up the bracket season with a win against ranked 16 Norfolk State. Norfolk State rocking a 24-10 record. This team performed very well throughout the regular season. They won their conference title, in fact, and that game is going to be Friday, March 21st. The time is to be determined, and I think the time is to be determined because we still had a couple other games that were going to be on. We had Michigan versus Wisconsin earlier today. So that was the reason for that, but I believe the time should be up between now and tomorrow if it's not already up. But I'll get that information back to you guys as soon as possible. If so, Dad, if you get that, can you throw that in the chat, the time for that game? Again, it would be Florida versus Norfolk State, and Norfolk State coming in at a 16. The Gators coming in at a 1. And again, that game's going to be Friday, March 21st. Time still to be determined. Guys, the Florida Gators, Florida State Seminoles are done. They're not playing basketball. Miami's not playing basketball. I'm going to let y'all know right now, we are not talking Canes, Noles. Their seasons are over. Forget about them. Okay? Noles had a better season than the Canes. Canes finished dead last in the ACC. Noles got knocked out in their tournament, the ACC tournament. So that's the end of their series, period, the end. That's just how that goes. But for the Gators, there is a bigger glaring issue that we have here. We need to talk about why the Gators were robbed of the unanimous rank 1 to start this March Madness season. Now, first things first, I will have you know that the Florida Gators do their best work as a 2. Historically speaking, this team has done has won probably more national championships at a 2 than conference titles at a 1. Okay, and I'm not making that up. College baseball, college basketball multiple times, college football multiple times, gymnastics multiple times, okay, and track and field. Now, track and field, we're normally a 1, so I can't say that has happened often, but it has happened. We've won outdoor track and field as a 2 or ladder, okay, instead of a 1. And as I said, the Buccaneers, the Gators do their best work as a 2, and I think that will continuously happen here. Yes, the Gators get in as a 1, but not a unanimous rank 1, and they should be a unanimous rank 1, and here's my reason for that. It's very simple, okay? The unanimous rank 1 went to Auburn. Now, that's not a bad pick. We were concerned that it would go to Duke. Duke can't get it simply because of their strength of schedule, but the Florida Gators got the 4 out of the top 4 1 seeds. So what that means is at any given time in college basketball, when March Madness starts, there's 4 rank 1s, okay? But there's a unanimous rank 1, then there's a 2, a 3, and a 4. The Gators are the 4, okay? They're the 4. They should be the 1. The 1 is Auburn. So here's my reasoning, right? First off, you can't put any other team outside of those teams as a unanimous rank 1 because the SEC recorded a record-breaking 14 teams 1-4 for the dance, okay? For this, Sweet 16, right? Not Sweet 16, but the what we're headed towards, the Sweet 16. The reason why I'm telling you that is because it's never been done before. It is a record. It's a college basketball record, for 1. And for 2, the SEC has the best teams in college basketball. Let's not act like we don't know this. There's Florida, there's Auburn, there's Alabama, there's Tennessee, there's Missouri, there's Texas A&M. There's so many good teams in the SEC represented in college basketball today. So when you look at that, you move aside the other conferences, you say, okay, so who's the best team in the SEC? Well, the Florida Gators won the SEC championship. Explain to me how the best team in the best conference is not a unanimous rank 1. Not only that, but they have head-to-head victories against former unanimous rank 1 teams in college basketball, including Auburn and Tennessee. And they're the only team in college basketball that have 2 unanimous rank 1 victories against, again, unanimous rank 1s in college basketball. It is outrageous that the Florida Gators are looked at not even as a 2 or a 3, but as a 4 when they are the best team in the best conference in basketball. And the only thing separating them is a conference record, where Auburn's conference record is 13-3 and the Florida Gators conference record is 12-4. If that's what you're going to tell me, even though the Florida Gators still won the SEC championship, there's something wrong fundamentally up here, okay? So as a result of that, the Florida Gators will now be playing basketball with a chip on their shoulder, which we've been playing this entire time. But guess what? Again, we do our best work as a 2, and I look forward to seeing how we destroy the rest of these teams moving forward, guys. So let's get back to the chat real quick. Yeah, boy, where's the Hennessy? My old man knows. My first drink was it was Hennessy and Red Bull. As an adult, my first drink was Hennessy and Red Bull. And that combination doesn't just turn you into a man. It does other stuff to you. It does other stuff to you. So, but we're switching it up. We're switching it up. We're doing something a little bit different. And so this is that little bit different. St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I wish I was off. I'm still working. Shout out to the city, because the city don't take many days off. So Friday, 6:30 at Lenovo Center. I think TNT came out 40 minutes ago. Gotcha. Roger that. Appreciate it. And like you said, record 14 SEC teams for March Madness. Absolutely insane, right? We've never seen that before. Shout out to the SEC, best conference in all of college sports. All right. So we pretty much covered why the Gators got robbed. We pretty much covered what to expect moving forward for them. The last thing I want to say is Walter Clayton Jr. is not human. He's not human. That guy is just nasty. He is the college Steph Curry. And if that doesn't get you going to go watch these Gator highlights, let me be the first one to tell you, go watch those Gator highlights from the last 3 games. Really just watch the highlights from the last 2 games. But if you want to see a little bit more, go watch the last 3 games. This is the best team in college basketball, guys. It doesn't matter what the the people at the table think and the voters and the coaches committee and all this, that, and the third. If you watch college basketball, okay, and you've watched the Florida Gators play college basketball, I need you to understand something. Their starting five is rubbing anybody else's starting five, but it gets deeper because then you go into the bench and you start looking at these guys that could literally start on any other college basketball team right now, and they're on our bench. Not because they're bad, but just because our rotation doesn't call for them to start. And understand that Todd Golden is an absolute wizard at mixing his guys around. In fact, he did it over the last couple of games, and we saw that happen a lot. Alex Condon, absolutely phenomenal. Elijah Martin, well, he's wearing number 15. You should know what that means. And then, of course, the one and the only Walton Clayton Jr. wearing the number one, rocking the number one because he is number one, baby. Number one in our hearts, number one on that court at any given time. If you haven't watched the Gator highlights, get on YouTube, Gator highlights. You're welcome in advance. This team is the best team in college basketball, and I cannot wait to see what they do moving forward against the rest of these college basketball teams. Go Gators. It's great to be a Florida Gator. Long live the Gators. Blue and orange, baby. All day and night. Let's move forward on with the MLB. Like I said, we're not talking Knowles Canes. Unfortunately, there's nothing to talk about there. Their seasons are over. They played, Miami played terribly. And the Knowles, they played well, but they didn't play well enough. At least they end their season above 500. That's the only thing we can say for them. And Dad, as you did say, and we won't back down. That's right, baby. We will never back down. Rays baseball. Okay, so as Dad mentioned in the chat before, for those of you who did not see his comment, I do have some information on the Rays stadium deal. As you guys may know, it's pretty much been a bigger story that the Rays do not have a stadium after the Hurricanes, Milton and Helene. And so the big question for Central Florida has been, where are the Rays going to play? If you are into MLB baseball and you want to know about this, this is going to be the thing that I want you to listen to. Because like I said earlier in the show, I did a project earlier this week on Friday, in fact, with the mayor. And during that time, during the press conference, somebody asked, what's going on with the Rays stadium? And I have a direct answer from our beloved mayor. So first things first, I'm going to have the rest of this. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. So, the mayor said this, and I quote, "It looks like it's going to fall through at St. Petersburg." All right. The big thing here is that the MLB has instructed the city of Tampa and the state of Florida that they want the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa Bay. And I need you to understand why that's the case. It's very simple. It's not really too hard to figure out if you were thinking on your own. But realistically speaking, Tampa Bay has not been on anybody's radar much of any time throughout its sports history until Tom Brady came to Tampa Bay. People might think that is like I'm just fanboying over. Oh, hear me out. The state of Florida is a tourist state and a retirement state, guys. Okay. So not like California where it's a vacation state, not like Texas where it's an everything state, not like New York where it's a money state, right? Like where like everything about New York is money, right? Here in sunny South Florida, this state is a retirement state, okay, a military state, and a tourist state, meaning people come here for short periods of time and then they leave, which means that our economy has this robust nature, but it bounces. It goes up and down. So during summertime, we make a lot of money, right? Because it's summertime. Miami, beach, everything you think summer, you think Florida, right? But when you think, wintertime, if you live up north is when you think Florida. Right? When you live up north, we call them snowbirds, okay? We call them snowbirds because you guys know birds in the north, they fly south when it gets cold. So I'm saying that to say something had to have happened to the state of Florida that caused us to blow up in a time where blowing up wasn't necessarily a thing. Enter Tom Brady. Understand this. Tom Brady comes from New England to Tampa Bay. Completely different universes these two areas are, for one. For two, also, he when he does that, he brings a whole slew of people with him, a whole slew of players who, you know, once they get to Florida, they're like, wow, no state income tax, right? So then you see that, and as a player, you're like, okay, this is actually pretty cool. I can save some money on my home. I can do this, that, and the third. So now you're starting to put all the pieces together, and people are starting to realize, yo, Florida is actually really like a really cool state. This is a great place to live. It's a great place for everything. Probably not for education, if I'm being 100% honest with you, but for the other things, as far as leisure, as far as vacationing, as far as your interests may be concerned. If you're a sports guy, this is a great place to be. If you're a science guy, this is a great place to be. Okay. If you're a nature guy, this is a great place to be. So now that people are starting to see that Florida is this amazing place, we've seen almost a triple. I think it's a triple in the amount of people that live here now, that actually live here in the state of Florida. And along with that, we've seen a lot more economic flow due to some of these things. And I think that this is a big part as to why we are seeing this happen now. And so when you factor all that into what's going on with the Rays, the MLB wants the Rays to stay in Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is the sport hub of Florida right now. When you talk about championships and you think about what the Bolts have done, they went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals and they won 2 of them. When you think about Tampa Bay securing a second Super Bowl victory, which is a very tough thing to do in the NFL, go look at the teams that have 2 or more Super Bowls and look at the teams that have 1 or less. It's double. Okay. So with the Rays have made it to 2 World Series finales, but unfortunately they lost both of them, and one of them they got swept in. And the Rays are is the only team here in Tampa Bay's history who has not won a national championship. So it kind of makes sense for them to want to keep the Rays here in that aspect. So as it turns out, like I said, it's falling through at St. Petersburg, which is where they're originally at, Tropicana Field. It's looking like they're trying to find play. The only issue is we don't have space in Tampa. Tampa Bay is completely booked up. You can't move there. All the houses are bought and owned or being rebuilt after the hurricanes. Hard to set up a business there. There's just no space. There's no space in downtown. I work in downtown pretty consistently. There's no space in downtown. There's no space there's definitely no space in South and East Tampa. West Tampa, maybe you could get away with some space. North Tampa is almost completely developed and pushing out further, close to Orlando area right now. So, you know, do with that information what you will, but geographically speaking, that's the issue that we're facing right now. Tampa Bay is just finding the space to do it. They're knocking down some projects over in just north of South Tampa and basically just kind of in the middle of the Tampa Bay area. They're knocking down some projects. So that could be a location, but I just don't see them doing something like that in that location. That location is kind of the more poverty-ridden area, if you will, in comparison to the surrounding areas. I'm not saying that's completely poverty-ridden, but it's definitely more so than the surrounding areas of Tampa Bay. And so when you take that in consideration, the last bit would have been Orlando, right? So there was an idea that Orlando was going to put together some type of financial package to try and make space and money for the team. I've been to Orlando many, many times before. Orlando does have the space. It is extremely crowded, just like it is here in Tampa, but it's more of a tourist destination, which means you could definitely do more with the space that you have there than just use it for tourists for timing purposes. And as a result, they definitely have the space. Unfortunately, like I said, the MLB for Orlando has decided they do want the Rays to stay here in Tampa Bay. So we're not exactly sure how that's going to shake out, guys. But for those MLB fans out there, just understand this, that the mayor, the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and obviously Kathy Castor are working diligently to keep the Rays in Tampa Bay. And if things go according to plan, they will be in Tampa Bay and the deal will be done in the near future. Look out for that deal. But that is the information I do have from our direct beloved mayor. Thank you so much, Mayor Castor, for everything that you do and for that information there. As far as the Rays and their spring training goes, they did lose to the Yankees 7-5 today. Like I said, spring training, the Yankees and the Rays love each other. Obviously, the Yankees have a second home down here, Steinbrenner Field. You know, it's all love. This is a big brother, little brother kind of deal, and we enjoy being the little brother to the Yankees, big brother, and we love the Yankees. It's all gravy. And like I said, hopefully these two teams will be able to hook it up again and have themselves a great regular season. However, obviously not expecting much from Tampa Bay given the situation with the stadium. Yeah, Seminoles men's team doesn't make NIT either. Yep, that's correct. So for those of you who did not know, like I mentioned before, the Noles are playing decent enough basketball, but not good enough, unfortunately. Alrighty. For the last bit of news for the Rays, their next game is going to be against the Mets at 1:10 p.m. So here's the deal, guys. I'm about to give you a bit of contradictory information. Do me a favor and just go look it up on your devices, on your phone, your laptop, whatever you're on right now, guys. Go look it up on there, because for some reason, Google has it listed that both the Rays and the Marlins are playing the Mets tomorrow at 1:10 p.m. That's just not possible for both teams to play one team at 1:10 p.m. However, it is probably going to be the Marlins and not the Rays, if I had to guess. I'm not sure which one of those is correct. And again, like I said, you could go look for yourself. Hopefully they corrected it. But on my end, I did have it appearing that the Rays and the Marlins were going to be playing the Mets tomorrow at 1:10 p.m. So one of those teams will be, one of those teams will not be. Keep that in consideration. I do apologize for the mix-up, guys. And for the Marlins, as far as the Marlins are concerned, they did beat the Cardinals 11-5 today. Big win by them. They've been playing very well at spring baseball, much better than the Rays have been playing. So shout out to the Marlins. You guys look good. Let's see if you guys can carry it into the regular season. And like I said, score of that game was 11-5. That was earlier today. But like I said, somehow they have both of the teams playing the Mets tomorrow at 1:10 p.m. That's just not possible. So like I said, go check that out and see which team it is. But one of those teams will be playing the Mets tomorrow at 1:10 p.m. The other team will either not be playing baseball or be playing somebody else. And there was some type of technical difficulty written in on the Google Sportcast there. So for the FSU women's basketball team, they get in as a 6 seed, and FSU gets in as a USF gets in as a 12 seed. So congratulations on USF Lady Bulls basketball team for getting in there. I actually had no clue that you guys were going to make it. I thought you guys were going to bubble out, but it looks like you guys did enough to get in. So congratulations to the Lady Bulls of USF. Super proud of you guys. To the USF men's basketball team. It's okay. You guys have time. You're not like the Noles in Miami where we're expecting you guys to just be tremendous immediately. So, take some time, continue to develop your team. A few years ago, you guys were on the right path. You guys have to find that path, find the breadcrumbs, get back on the path, get back to work, get back to being a decent team again, because you guys can do it. So that's the MLB, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the NHL, and then I will send you guys on your way. We've definitely had ourselves a lively show this evening, but we did have a lot to talk about with the NFL and free agency. So let's go ahead and talk about the Bolts and the Panthers. So the Bolts, they win their game against the Bruins yesterday, 6-2. Needed to. That snaps a 3-game losing streak that they had that was started by the Bruins after an 9-game winning streak they went on. Absolutely phenomenal work done by the Bolts team to climb back into second place into the Atlantic, with the Maple Leafs falling down from first to third and in danger of falling down into fourth right now. With the other team, I can't remember which team it was, but right underneath them, they've won 4 in a row. They're looking really 6 in a row. My bad. They're looking really good, like they might overtake the Maple Leafs. So right now, the Bolts, though, like I said, playing really good hockey. Their record is sitting at 38-23-5, which is good enough for second in the Atlantic, third place in the Eastern Conference right now. They're playing tremendous hockey, one of the best teams in hockey. I said it last week, the Stanley Cup still goes through Florida. The Bolts and the Panthers are proving that right now with the way they're playing hockey, and if they continue to play hockey this way, this will be a battle in the Eastern Conference, as it has been each of the 4 out of the last 5 years, I believe it was, and I look forward to seeing what takes place here between these two teams. I think it was, like I said, the Rays, not the Rays, but the Bolts. They won 2 Stanley Cups, lost the third one. The Panthers lost the first one they went to, but won the second one that they went to, for 5 total appearances by Florida teams in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like I said, Stanley Cup still goes through Florida. Doesn't matter. Argue with a wall. I don't care. That game was yesterday. Bruins rocking a 30-30-8 record, so they are literally as middle of the road as you could possibly. You could not be more middle of the road than they are right now at this point in time in the season. But this Bruin team's always dangerous. Very good team. A team that gave Tampa Bay and Florida fits before we went on those tears to get into the Stanley Cup Finals over the last 5-6 years, guys. So just taking consideration that this Bruins team knows what they're doing. They're still very well coached. And if they can put a couple of things together, this team will be just as dangerous as they were before. And we're hoping that's not the case, moving forward. But this Bolts team, like I said, looking really good. They snapped their 3-game losing streak, which was started by the Bruins. The next game they're going to have is against the Flyers. That's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m., so get ready for that game. Hopefully the Bolts come in all guns blazing, put another W on there, make it 2 wins in a row as they continue to move forward, an inch closer to that 40 win that they're trying to get to, which would be right behind the Panthers. But like I said, snapping that 3-game losing streak was the first step, and they were able to do it. Good job, Bolts. Super proud of you guys. Kirchhoff got injured, but hopefully he's not gone for long and he's able to return and be the guy that we know and love him to be, guys. Back to the chat real quick. So for those of you who did not know, that is true. It has been a rough season for the Bulls men's team. Losing their head coach, he passed away before the start of the season. He did. It was a heartbreaker. I believe I mentioned that on the show when it happened. Our hearts still go out to the family, go out to that Bulls team. It was so unexpected. Nobody saw it coming. But unfortunately, that was part of what they had to deal with this season. And I know that they are feeling it in more ways than one, but hopefully the, Lady Bulls can carry on some type of positive legacy for this year, knowing that the men's team was going through this. And of course, they had some promise. This team is not a bad team, USF, but before the season start having that kind of situation take place, my heart goes out to that team and to that family still to this day. And I couldn't imagine what that feels like, and I just want to be vulnerable and be a human for a second and say that we love you guys, and we support you, the city supports you, and just wishing the best for that team still, even after 6 months later from when that happened. So all love out there to USF Bulls. We love you. Could be the Mets split teams playing at both places. Happens sometimes. It could be. It just hasn't happened in a while. I mean, not that I know of. It hasn't happened down here in a while. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely something that could take place. But it's still such an awkward thing to see. You think they might leave some type of information there to let people know that there's a split or whatever have you. But, I guess that's not the case. Panthers hockey, guys. Panthers right now, best team in the Atlantic, best team in probably the East right now. Stanley Cup champions from last year, defending Stanley Cup champions, if you will. They're playing pretty tremendous hockey right now. Now, they were not on a losing streak. They've been 2-2 back and forth with their wins to losses. Before that, they were on a 6-game win streak looking absolutely phenomenal. And the Panthers, so they were playing the Islanders. The last time I saw it, if anybody wants to throw that score into the chat, the last time I saw it was the end of the first. It was still scoreless through the end of the first. Again, they were playing New York Islanders. Islanders rocking a 29-28-8 record, 1 game above 500. Obviously, I fully expect Panthers to win this game. If somebody asked me what the score of the game was going to be, I'd say 3-0 Panthers at this point. Check me if I'm wrong, guys. Throw that score into the comments, and I will mention it live. But like I said, last time that I saw that game as I was flipping through the channels was the end of the first, scoreless. Panthers right now, they are rocking a 41-23-3 record. They're playing tremendous hockey, like I said before. Yeah, I really, there's not too much more to say other than that. I mean, against defending Stanley Cup champions there, 2-2 over the last 4 games, but before that, I think it was 6 in a row they had won. They're playing tremendous hockey behind just all-timers ever. Offense, defense, goalie, transition has been phenomenal. They've been scoring on the power plays. The last week we were talking about, they were 12-1 in their score ratios versus them and the other teams that they're playing against. Man, this Panthers team is really, really good. This is the team that people are going to have to look out for. Vegas, you're not safe. In the East, I would be pretty much terrified to play either one of these teams, probably more so the Panthers than the Bolts right now, but that I wouldn't say that by much. You're looking at your 1 and your 2 in the Atlantic right now, and your 1 and your 3 in the Eastern Conference. So, yeah, good job, Panthers. Keep going. 2-2 over the last 4. First in the Atlantic. Like I said, their next game is going to be against the Yellow Jackets. That's going to be Thursday, March 20th, guys. The time is still to be determined. Why is it to be determined? I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately, but I can say that they will be playing the Blue Jackets Thursday, March 20th. And I would my apologies, not to be determined. That game is going to be at 7 p.m. I lied. I apologize, guys. 7 p.m. start time for that game on a Thursday. I should be able to watch that. I don't have anything else going on Thursday. So, I look forward to seeing what happens there. That should be a decent game. Blue Jackets have actually beaten the Panthers earlier this year. If I remember correctly, I believe it was earlier this year. But they were able to shock the Panthers, a shock victory, if you will, over the Panthers. So, yeah, that's what's going on, guys. Hey, that's everything I have for you guys. So I definitely want to say thank you guys so much for joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio. This show has been my longest show to date up until this point, 1 hour and 34 minutes. We had a lot to talk about. I'm glad I was able to do it with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here on this Sunday evening for Palm Tree Sports Radio. I look forward to talking to you guys same time, same place next week. Sunday evening, 9 p.m. start time, Eastern Standard Time, guys. If you're on the West Coast, I believe it's 6 p.m. start time. But yeah, have it locked here for Palm Tree Sports and all your Sunshine Sports needs, guys. Again, thank you for having it locked here. I hope you guys have a wonderful work week moving forward. Down here, it's pretty warm. It was wet earlier today, but it's still pretty warm at the moment. So looking forward to having a great weather week as far as that is concerned. Hopefully the same is for you guys. I pray for you guys and your families. May you guys stay safe, stay blessed, take care, love each other. Quick peek back at the comments right quick before we go. Great show. Yes, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate y'all. You guys are the best. Islanders score 4 goals. Oh my! And they won 4-2. Well, I have that score incorrect. Congratulations, Islanders, on a big win against the Stanley Cup, former Stanley Cup champions, defending Stanley Cup champions, and the Florida Panthers. Panthers, let's get back on the ball. Starting this week against the Blue Jackets, Thursday, March 20th. Let's get a dub back and let's return back to success, guys. My name has been Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, and as always, is brought to you in part by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you, guys. I will see you next time. Until then, peace. Take care.